All right, for the Module 6 review, number 1 says, is the ordered pair 0.5, 8.5 a solution to the following equations? So you are more than welcome to use a calculator here. All we have to do is plug in 0.5 for x and see if we get 8.5 for y. So for part A, 17 times a half is 8.5. So that one is a yes. Then we got to do 5 times 0.5 minus 42, and that one is not 8.5 when you type it in. And then negative 7 times 0.5 plus 12. That one does give you 8.5. And then we have to do 0.5 squared plus 15 times 0.5. And that one does not give you 8.5. For number 2, is each of the functions a linear function? Remember, we are looking for things in the form of y equals mx plus b. So part A is exactly in that form, so that's a yes. B is close to mx plus b, except for it has that x squared. We can't have exponents on our x values, so that's a no. And then C is also a no because it has x in the denominator of a fraction. If that said 1/2 times x plus 10, then it would be linear, but it does not. It has the x in the denominator. All right, number 3, what describes the slope of the line shown on the graph below? So if I were to pick 2 points, I'm going to pick here and here. Remember, we have to do rise over run on our graph. So if I'm going from this point to the next point here, I'm not going to rise anything. So that's going to be a 0. And then it's not numbered, so I'm going to estimate I'm going to run about 4. And 0 divided by 4 is 0. So anytime you have a 0 on the top, the answer will be 0. If you got 0 for your run, that is where our answer would be undefined. You cannot divide by 0. What is the slope of this line? Well, we have to find 2 points that are exactly on ordered pairs that we can tell what they are. So it looks like here and here. So I'm going to go up and over to get to that point. I'm going to go up 2 spots, and I'm going to go over 1. So rise is 2, run is 1, and that simplifies to 2. So the slope of this line is 2. Now over here, number 5, what is the slope of the line that contains this point and has a y-intercept of -5? So if we plug everything into y equals mx plus b, our y is 4. We don't know what our m is. We know our x is -0.5, and we know our b is -5. So I'm going to solve for m, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So that's 9 equals. I'm just going to flip this around and put this -1/2 in front because that's what we're normally used to seeing. Then I'm going to have to divide by that -0.5 to cancel it out. So m is left on this side, and 9 divided by a -0.5 is actually -18. So our slope is -18 for this one. Does each of the following equations describe a line with an x-intercept of 7? So if we plugged in 0 for our y, we should get out x is 7. So if I put 0 in for y, this middle term is going to cancel out because anything times 0 is 0. So I'm going to have -2 times something is -14. Well, that would be 7. So yes, this has an intercept, x-intercept of 7. Same thing here, 0 in for y, so that's gone. And 3 times 7 going to give me 14. No, 3 times 7 is 21. So no, 7 is not the x-intercept there. And get rid of the 2y here, putting a 0 in for it. -4 times 7 is -28. So yes, this is true. Write an equation that describes the line that passes through these points. So we have to find the slope first. So remember y2 minus y1, so we got -3 minus 2 over 0 minus 2, the x2 minus x1. So we have -5 over -2. which two negatives cancel out, make a positive. So far we know y equals 5 over 2x. Now we're going to plug that in one of the points into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to pick this one. So y is negative 3. Our slope is 5 halves. And we're going to times by x, which is 0. And we're going to get our b. So this is 0, and we multiply by 0. So 0 plus something is going to give me negative 3. Well, that would be negative 3. So our y-intercept is minus 3. So then we have our equation. Also, whenever you have x is 0, you know that y value is your y-intercept. So we could have just looked at that point, but just in case it's not like that on your test, you want to make sure you know how to plug the numbers in and figure it out. The table below shows the relationship between the size of a painting by a particular artist and the price the artist charges for the paintings. So which equation describes this relationship? So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the x values into these equations and see if we get out our y values. So when I plug in 48 for x, I'm going to do 3 times 48 minus 40. And when I do that, I get 3 times 48 minus 40 is 104. So A is not going to work here. For part B, we're going to do 48 plus 72, and that is 120. So that could possibly be an answer. And then for C, we're going to do 2 times our x of 48 plus 24, and we get 120. So C also could work. And then for D, 3 times 48 minus 24 is also 120. So all that first ordered pair did was cancel out A. So we have 3 options still. So now we need to move over to another point. So I'm going to move over and plug 64 in for my x. So if I do 64 plus 72, I get 136. So this is saying I need 152. So this is not correct. For C, I would do 2 times 64 plus 24, and I get 152. So that one would work. 3 times 64 minus 24 is 168. So that one's not going to work. So C is the one that works. And you could also type in the last ordered pair. So you would do 2 times 144 plus 24, and you get 312. So C is definitely our answer there. On to the next page, it says find the value of f of x equals 3x squared minus x plus 23 for x is negative 4. So we are going to plug in negative 4. So we're going to have 3 times negative 4 squared minus negative 4 plus 23. So negative 4 squared is 16, so this is going to be 3 times 16 minus a negative will turn into a plus, and then we have plus 23. So 3 times 16 plus 4 plus 23 is going to equal 75. Number 10, we have to, for part A, find the x and y intercepts. So remember that's where they cross the x and y axis. So the x-intercept is 2 and the y-intercept is negative 5. So x equals 2, y equals negative 5. What is the slope? So we know that those 2 points are exact points on the line. So rise over run, we're going to go up and over. Looks like I'm going to go up 5 and over 2. So that would leave 5 over 2 for our slope. And then part C is write an equation for the line. Well, we have all of the information we need now. So we can do y equals our slope of 5 halves x, and our y-intercept is negative 5, so minus 5. We need to graph y equals negative 2 and x equals 5 on the graph below. So y equals negative 2 would be right here. There's no x, so that means the slope is 0. So a horizontal line has the slope of 0. And then x equals 5, so that would go through x is positive 5, and be a straight line there. Remember, x equals a number that has an undefined slope, so it's a straight up and down line. Number 12, what is the domain and the range of y equals 3x minus 7.25? We're going to say all real numbers because there is not a story to go along with this to tell us that we can't use negatives or we can't use fractions or we can only use the numbers between 1 and 10. There's no story to tell us anything, so we just assume that domain and range is all real numbers. Number 13, write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that goes through these 2 points. So we have to find the slope first. So remember y2 minus y1, so 8 minus 5 gives us 3, and then 2 minus negative 3. And that would be not negative 2. 2 minus negative 3 would be 2 plus 3, and that would be 5. So far we know y equals 3/5 x. So now we're going to pick one of those 2 points. I'm going to pick 2 and 8 because they're both positive. 8 is our y, our slope is 3/5, and our x is 2 plus b. So if I multiply that, I'm going to get 6/5. 3 times 2, remember, put a 1 under that. 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 1 is 5. So then I would have to minus 6/5 from both sides. So 8 minus 6/5 is 6 4/5. So if I made that improper, 34/5, because we want 6 4/5, we can't do, we could write 6.8 if we wanted to. So one of those 2 ways, just don't leave it 6 4/5 because it might get mistaken for 64/5 and that sort of thing. All right, number 14, write an equation in standard form for an equation with an x-intercept of 2 and a y-intercept of -6. So if you think about a graph, we have -6 here and x-intercept of +2. So we'd have to go up 6 and over 2. So our rise would be 6 and our run would be 2. That would be 3. So we could have y equals 3x, and then we know our y-intercept is -6, so -6. Standard form has to have that number without the x or the y, so in this case the -6, all by itself. So I am going to minus 3x from both sides. So I have y minus 3x equals -6. And remember, standard form was ax plus by equals c. So the x has to be first, so I'm just going to flip it around. -3x, the y is positive, equals -6. So there is our standard form. Number 15, a restaurant sells tea for $1.50 plus 50 cents per refill. A gas station store sells tea for 50 cents plus 50 cents per refill. So for part A, we have to write a linear function for the price of tea at the restaurant. So that is going to be our y equals. We're going to have to pay 50 cents per refill. So I'm just going to put 0.5 x because we don't know how many refills we'll get. And then we have to pay $1.50 on the first time.